Oh, what's up, you guys? This is Game Rage 101, and today I am doing a very special video. It has been a while since I have covered the topic of Metal Gear Online 3 on my channel. Even Metal Gear at all, because I don't cover it that much. Even though I am a huge fan of the series and have been for a very long time, I simply don't do much of it on my channel. However, that might change with Metal Gear Online 3, but we will see what the future holds. For the time being, let's focus on the topic at hand. Metal Gear Online 3, what it needs. That is the previous video in the entry for my basic opinions on how I wanted Metal Gear Online 3 to be and what a lot of people agreed with, thought it should be. In the previous video, I focused on a lot of various topics, and I only cover the topics that I thought benefited the game. I did not cover any of the negative topics, simply because those are not what I wanted to be in Metal Gear Online 3. So, for the most part, I didn't cover any negative topics except for maybe one or two, but anything that was negative in the previous game, I didn't cover it because I didn't want it to be in the game. So there was no reason for me to talk about it. A lot of people were assuming that I was only covering the good things of the game because of fanboyism. I was ignoring them because I didn't want them mentioned. That is all there was to it. However, in this particular video, I am going to be talking about the negative things of MGO3. Keep that in mind as you watch this video. This is one big opinion, and if you disagree with that, that is fine. But for now, let's start it off in the same format as my previous video. I'm going to list off a list of various things that I wanted in the game and how they turned out, if they made it in or whether they didn't. So, without further ado, let's get started. This first topic may come off as both a positive and a negative depending on how you look at it. But the first topic is text chat. This is something that was present in the previous Metal Gear Online, however is not present in Metal Gear Online 3 at all. While it may become present on the PC, it is not present on consoles at the time. So, for the time being, text chat is not there and likely never will be on consoles. This is a positive for the general populace, but this is a negative for the people who enjoyed the things such as the custom game modes that people made during Metal Gear Online 2, and it definitely dumbs down the community a little bit with lack of communication outside of the codecs. The good thing about it is that the codecs are extremely easy to use now. In Metal Gear Online 2, it was kind of cumbersome to get to the codecs, so a lot of people didn't really use them. However, in this game, all you really do is hold down L1 and the right stick. It's same as the single player. If you played it, you already know where I'm going with this. It's really easy to communicate with your teammates on a very basic level. But that's just it. It is a very basic level. There is not much to it other than that. You can customize it a little bit here, but there's just not much you can do. So text chat is not present in the game, like I wish it was, but since it's not, there's nothing we can really do about it. That wasn't really a big deal for me, but it was something I wanted in the game. The second topic that I want to discuss is character customization. In the previous Metal Gear Online, you had a lot of options to how you wanted to customize your character. There was so many things in customization that it was very easy to make your character unique. You had multiple head options that could actually combine with each other. Some of them couldn't, but that makes sense. Then you had shoes, knee pads, helmets, holsters, gloves, chest pieces, and all these other things, and then a couple of accessory options also. So you had a lot of different options in Metal Gear Online 2 that you could customize your character with. Metal Gear Online 3 is an extremely dumbed down version of that. You only have 4 options to choose from this time. A basic headgear, a basic chest piece, an overall uniform and color you can choose from, which you have to purchase with gear points, which is the equivalent of reward points, but I'll get into that later. And then your accessory slot, which is really just eyewear. Some of the headgear unequips the eye gear. Well, some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't, but that's just how it is. So in some cases, they can't clash and you can't have all 4 pieces on at the same time. That's all there is. That is all the customization you get. You can pick various colors on most things, but other than that, it is extremely dumbed down, which I don't really like. I'm glad the customization is there because they could have been assholes and said no customization for you at all. But they dumbed it down, and they just definitely made it more easy and more westernized, I guess I would say, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in some cases, but for customization, it is, because westernized stuff is usually pretty dumbed down when it comes to customizing stuff. It's unfortunate, but maybe later they'll remedy it. I hope so, but knowing the way Konami has been going, it's likely going to be paid DLC if you want to customize your character more and personalize them more, which, quite frankly, is bullshit. The third thing I would like to talk about is pre-game loadouts, something that was not there in Metal Gear Online 2, and this is something I discussed in the previous video as well. I said that I did not want pre-game loadouts. My opinion hasn't really changed, but my opinion is definitely not as negative as it was before now that I've actually seen it in action. However, it does have some problems, which I'm going to discuss here in just a moment. But the previous game did not have them. You selected each individual weapon, primary, secondary, and equipment in the middle of the game, and you could change it around during the game as well. That's not a thing here at all, and there's no Draven Point equivalent in Metal Gear Online 3 either. Everything you do, you earn through progression, basic shooter stuff here. Now, if you've played any shooters since Call of Duty 4, you know exactly how the progression in this game works. It's the very basic level up, earn experience, gain weapons and equipment through basic playing the game. That's all there really is to it. From what I can tell, you don't really earn any customization options through it, only gameplay options. So, it's not completely a bad thing, but there could be things that were better. Basically, play the game long enough and eventually you will unlock everything. That's all there is to it. Now, because of pre-game loadouts, the Draven Point system, or an equivalent, has been completely abolished because none of the 3 game modes that exist in the game right now support such a feature. Because of pre-game loadouts, there's nothing for you to buy in-game with points earned by playing the game well. So that point system is completely gone. Now, after playing Metal Gear Online 3 for about 20 hours or so, I realized why this point system was completely abolished. The game just plays too fast for you to be able to stop mid-game and start selecting weapons and attachments based on points. It just plays too fast for you to do that. Because if you have to stop, you're basically leaving your team in the dust while you're sitting there nitpicking as which gun you want it, instead of getting back into the actions with the guns you already have ready. So after playing with it, I understand why they went with this system, and I do completely agree with it. However, I would like to see a game mode that does improvise a system such as this, because of the fact that if you made a game mode like this that doesn't limit anybody, or basically give anybody an advantage by level, you could actually make it an interesting game mode, but otherwise I don't see the point system being returned, or even a reason for it to return, because otherwise it would just slow the game down to a point where it really doesn't need to be. But if they did add a game mode that was specific to the point system and the levels didn't matter, that'd be okay. Now, the biggest downside to pre-game loadouts is the fact that there's always going to be a level advantage or disadvantage. If you're a low level, you're not going to have all the equipment that some really high level guy has. But from what I can tell, level balancing is actually pretty solid, so you actually get lobbies with pretty close level to yours, at least from what I can tell. I have seen some cases where it doesn't quite do that, but the game just came out, so give us some time to work out some of the kinks, guys. So the next topic is a couple of different things in one, but the first thing I want to discuss is multiple characters, unique names. This is something I asked for in the previous Metal Gear Online 3 video, and it is something we got. You get 3 characters as a matter of fact. The first character is the one you will create during the main story for Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, and the next 2 are the ones you will create during Metal Gear Online yourself. The next 2 are given a bit more options for customization, but for the most part they feature the same system that you create your character with in the main game. Other than that, nothing's really changed. However, in the previous video I mentioned that Metal Gear Online 2 went by your character name, so everyone that appeared in lobby was your character name and not your PlayStation username. However, this time around, it is the opposite. Your character names do not show up in-game. It shows up your PlayStation username or Xbox Live gamer tag, depending on which system you're playing on. Your character name doesn't show up in-game at all, except for when you're selecting him before a match. And to me, this really doesn't bother me that much, because, I mean, at least you could name your character instead of just having generic soldier number 1. The next thing I want to talk about is the classes, which really is just a note to everyone to let you know that there are 3 classes and 3 characters. Coincidence? I think not. They deliberately gave you 3 characters because there are 3 classes, so they clearly want you to pick 1 class per character, which to me makes perfect sense, because if you just make the same class in 3 different characters, you're doing yourself a disservice because you won't be able to see the rest of the game. So I recommend doing exactly what they intended you to do, 1 class per character, and it's simple enough as that. So go ahead and do that, guys, so you can experience everything that Metal Gear Online 3 has to offer you in terms of progression and weapons and skills. In the previous Metal Gear Online 3 video, one of the things I asked for was custom lobby priority. What that meant was I wanted custom lobbies to have priority over auto-matching or matchmaking, meaning that was what they were going to search for. You as a player were going to search for the custom lobbies instead of just going to auto-matching all the time. Unfortunately, it ended up being the exact opposite of that. Custom lobbies still exist, but they are dumbed down to the point where they are pretty much redundant and there is no reason to go to them anymore at all. You can still host your own lobby as you want to do it, and as host you can still kick people at your will. You cannot kick during a game, but you can kick during a waiting period or the lobby. But it is dumbed down because you cannot custom name your server. You cannot give it a custom description. All the information tells you is the game mode being played, the amount of players, time of day, if there's a password lock, and the map. That is all the information that is given to you, and that is all the information you are allowed to give. So there is no reason to do search matching anymore because of the fact that custom lobbies simply don't exist to the level that they did in Metal Gear Online 2. And I am annoyed by this because I find this hard to believe that a game a generation ago did this better. How can you guys call yourself a Metal Gear Online development team and leave out such a feature that was important to a lot of people, especially the community that had a really great time communicating with each other, and you took the system away that allowed them to do that the most? That is just my opinion. If you guys disagree with that, that's fine. I completely understand if you disagree with that. But unfortunately for me, this is something that was actually a very big deal to me. Custom lobby priority being stripped from the game completely disgraces the Metal Gear Online 2 completely, because it just simply doesn't allow you to go into a lobby and just chat with people anymore. And as weird as that may sound to some people, that was a thing. A lot of people actually did that. And that also is what created some of the most interesting custom game modes in Metal Gear Online 2. So with the lack of that system, there's no more custom game modes ever happening ever again. And I suppose at this point, even if they did include that feature, the lack of text chat completely negates it almost to an extreme as well, simply because of the fact that if someone needs rules of these custom game modes explained to them, they would have to end up on the proper team unless there is a free-for-all mode added later, which also is a possibility, because I don't think they're going to stick it to 3 game modes forever. Metal Gear Online 2 started off with a very small amount of game modes as well. I don't think this game will stay that way. I think they'll add stuff later on, which is perfectly fine in my opinion. Some of this stuff may be remedied by the PC version. However, if it does get remedied by the PC version and doesn't come over to consoles, that's going to piss me off even more. Not because I hate PC, because I'm a PC gamer myself, but because you'd be cutting off a section of the community again, which you've already kind of done. Unfortunately, Metal Gear Online 3 simply doesn't have some of the features that made Metal Gear Online 2 great. Another one of those features that was stripped from the game is clan creation and customization. To some people, this isn't really as big of a deal, and honestly, it's not that big of a deal to me either. It's just something that feels like it could have been there. But honestly, I can understand why they didn't include it in the game, because really, you don't need it that much. It just would have been nice. As a matter of fact, there is no in-game party system at all. It actually relies on your Xbox Live Party or PlayStation Network Party instead of using an in-game party system, which actually works really well, to say the least. The only problem I have with it can probably be fixed with a patch, and that's that sometimes it does put you and your friends in different lobbies, only if the match you get into is full, and it does put you on opposite teams, only for the current round, and if teams are imbalanced. It's not completely flawed, but it's not perfect either. A couple patches can probably fix this very easily, though, so it's not that big of a deal. But the clan system not being there, it's a little annoying, because I feel like we lose a little bit of control over how we play with some of our friends, but it's not that big of a deal. I just kind of hope they add something, or wish they had if they don't. One more thing I want to mention is game modes. In the previous one, I mentioned 2 specific game modes that I wanted to return. One of them did, and one of them still may at a later date. The one that did is essentially team sneaking. It's called Cloak and Dagger in this game, but it is essentially the same game mode. The game mode that I want to return is called Sneaking Mission. In this game mode, one player was assigned the role of Snake, and he was not aligned with either side. He had his own objective, and both sides had to try to take him out. So it was one versus everybody in the middle of an actual battle while the two teams were colliding with each other. It was a really interesting game mode, and I can see them adding this at a later date, but if they don't, I'll actually be pretty damn disappointed at that, because this game has some potential for something like that. And a couple more things I want to mention before I get into the gameplay is that reward points have returned. They're simply called gear points, and you earn them by playing games. Simple as that. You earn more gear points by playing auto matching instead of custom matching, which is another reason why custom matches have become much more redundant than they already are. And then the next thing I want to mention is music selection does make a return. There's not very many tracks you can choose from at the moment, but quite frankly, Metal Gear Online 2 launched with very few tracks as well, so they'll probably add some at a later date as well. One more thing, vote to kick is not an option anymore. Host has full authority of who to kick, unless it's an auto match game. You don't have any authority over that. Another thing I want to mention is unique characters are returning. At the moment, there is only Snake and Ocelot, and you cannot choose which team gets what, which is kind of fine. It's okay, really. I'm pretty sure it's Team Solid, Team Liquid, and stuff like that. So it's not really that big of a deal, but they're there, so they'll probably add more later, just like they did with Metal Gear Online 2. One more thing I want to mention, survival and tournament are not a thing, and I'm not sure if they ever will be. I haven't heard anything about them at all at this current point in time. So, unfortunately, we don't know anything about survival and tournament. However, there are a lot of gear pieces that you can buy with a very high amount of gear points. I don't think they intend for anybody to earn that many gear points naturally. I think they are actually going to add something kind of like survival or tournament. But we will see at a later date. At this time, there is simply nothing there besides the 3 base game modes that the game launched with. Now, I'm actually going to make a separate video discussing the gameplay features and the gameplay flaws. This one is already dragging on a little bit as it is, and it was really just meant to be a follow-up to Metal Gear Online 3, what it needs. So I'm simply going to talk about the basic features and not the basic gameplay just yet. However, I will leave you off with this. What is my opinion of Metal Gear Online 3, if you value it at all? It is an extremely fun game. I have been playing it almost non-stop besides work and sleep since it got released about a week ago at this point in time. And I am having so much fun with it that I still don't want to stop playing. I am enjoying the game so much that I haven't been playing any other games besides it. It is a very fun shooter, and I would recommend it to everybody if you enjoy multiplayer shooters. If you're not really into multiplayer shooters, then no, obviously you're not going to want to play something called Metal Gear Online. But the thing about it is very dumbed down, very, very dumbed down, actually, to what Metal Gear Online 2 was. And for the faithful fans of Metal Gear Online 2 all the way till its utter demise, you will probably not enjoy this game if you are expecting all of the features Metal Gear Online 2 had. However, if you enjoy the Phantom Pain's gameplay, or if you just think it looks good or whatever, if you just enjoy the way that game played, the gameplay is enough to keep bringing me back to this game alone. And I can definitely say with 100% like positive opinion that you should play Metal Gear Online if you are a Metal Gear Solid 5 fan, or even a Metal Gear Online 2 fan. But again, Metal Gear Online 2 fans, please understand that you are getting a dumbed down version of the game. It is a free update with the Phantom Pain, so if you already have the Phantom Pain, there is no reason not to try it. But just don't expect the same things as Metal Gear Online 2, because they are simply not there. Unfortunate as that may be, they're just not. But the gameplay, I don't want to say completely makes up for it, because in my mind it doesn't. To some people, to a lot of people, it may. But to me, it just doesn't. I'm still having so much fun with the game, though. I cannot deny that at all. So, my overall opinion is that play the game as a shooter and not as Metal Gear Online, and you will enjoy it a lot more. I know that seems like a shitty thing to say because it is Metal Gear Online 3, but it's just not the same Metal Gear Online that we all wanted. Overall, if I'm gonna rate Metal Gear Online in comparison to Metal Gear Online 2, I'm gonna give it like a 4 out of 10. But if I'm gonna rate Metal Gear Online 3 as its own thing, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. That's just how it stands, because quite frankly, when it stands up to most shooters these days, it is definitely one of the most fun to play. It is definitely one of the most sporadic, unpredictable games you can play, because things just are, as you can see on the screen right now, things get intense quick, especially in some of the like team deathmatch, which is bounty hunter, and the comm control game mode. Those things get really intense. It's a very fun game. I can't stop saying that. It is so much fun, but it's just not Metal Gear Online 2. I know I keep repeating that, but I want to make that clear. It is no Metal Gear Online 2, and the only void for any fans of Metal Gear Online 2 that will be filled is by playing Metal Gear Online 2 again, which we are not getting an official release of. If that changes in the future, which honestly I doubt, but if it does change in the future, then so be it. But for the time being, Metal Gear Online 3 is what we've got. And keep in mind, this is early. This hasn't been out that long, so they may still add stuff later, but in its current state, it is much more disappointing. It is a much more disappointing version of Metal Gear Online, but it is not a disappointing multiplayer shooter or tactical operations, whatever you want to call it, teamwork-based shooter game. It is fun, especially if you have the right friends to play with. So guys, my overall opinion is just play the game, try it out, make your opinion for yourself, and don't listen to my opinion as a final verdict. Play the game for yourself and try it out. It is a free update with the game. That's all I've really got to say to you guys. If you've watched the previous video, the Metal Gear Online 3, what it needs, you know there was probably a few more topics that I didn't list. That's mostly because of the fact that they simply were not present in the game, or something I simply didn't see as priority. In any case, I want to say thank you guys for watching this video, and I will be making a gameplay video talking about pros and cons of Metal Gear Online 3's gameplay and features of its in-game stuff, not so much the menus and customization. I'll actually talk about the gameplay, the way it plays, things that should be buffed, things that should be nerfed, based on my opinion as well. But that one may be co-hosted by a friend of mine, but we'll see how that happens. In any case, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come and watch the video. And if you guys like Metal Gear Online 3, or if you dislike it, let me know what you guys' opinions are in the comments below. Alright guys, that will be everything for this video. If you guys liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the content I am uploading, please subscribe to my channel. Alright guys, that's going to be everything. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good day, everybody.